not only is it a day early, but it's also the day after our big Sync Points
Our
premiere.
Sync Points #1, our Simpsons movie commentary has been released. If you are listening to this, it's already out. So you just have to go to
Simpsons movie commentary.
wepodcast.com, and you will definitely be able to find the links to purchase that. It's going to be $2, and it is a commentary track for the movie. You don't have to be watching the movie while you listen to it. It's designed to, but it's basically an extra long episode of that's not been edited.
You should be listening to it on the way to work. You should be listening to it at home on the couch with a loved one.
Right.
Curled up all nice.
Oh. What a nice little
and
picture.
we're hoping this is going to be a big series, and we'll be doing many more movies to come.
Yes.
So I'm assuming if you download it, it'll be worth a lot of money, like Radioactive Man #1.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a collector's item. So get in now.
Like all my Superman Red, Superman Blue #1s.
That's exactly right.
Lining the birdcage.
Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever, and as always, my name is Dan.
And as always, my name is Jack.
Of course it is. It'd be weird if you were Pete one week.
just switch it up.
Just to mix it up. So today we are going to be watching an episode from season 11 that is called Bart to the Future. Originally aired March of 2000. Jack, have you seen this one?
Oh yeah, a few times.
Yeah, same.
More than once.
I've seen this one a bunch of times, but probably not in a few years. So I'm curious to see how it holds up and how it compares to some of the later episodes we've watched.
Now, there's a reason we're doing this episode.
Yes, there is.
So I'm assuming we're gonna release this a day early on a Wednesday, which would be our 1 year anniversary. October 21st, we released our first two
episodes.
episodes. So
And then
happy anniversary!
Thank you. I'm so happy you remembered.
But
Thank
October
you, Jack.
21st is also another big day in history.
It is.
It is the day I get a smartphone.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's very true.
It's my 2-year
Your
Verizon
2-year contract is finally up.
Should be up. So I'm hoping, we're recording this a few days early. I'm hoping by the end of tonight,
it all went smoothly.
I will have gotten a iPhone 6S because I'm going big.
Yeah,
I'm making up for lost time. Some eagle-eared listeners would know that I have had a very old flip phone.
You have. It's tough to text you.
Yeah, very tough. So, it's tough for me to text back.
Yeah, I get like, hey Jack, what time should I come over? And it's like Flurgan, Gargan.
Yeah, and I can only hold 3 texts before I have to clear my cache, which is true. So I should have an iPhone. Big day. It's also Back to the Future Day.
It is. It is the day that Marty McFly travels forward in time to 2015. So we will welcome him on the podcast.
What a time to be alive.
That's right. So, of course, we decided we should do Bart to the Future. But we're not the only ones who said we should do this episode. It was requested by a number of listeners. Scott Baird, Tom Cothran requested this one. Johnny Rad. Okay, sweet
sounds
name.
rad.
Kevin Hawthorne requested this one.
Sounds Hawthorne.
Kevin Hawthorne requested it again. I guess we didn't do it as fast as he wanted us to. Andrew Langley also requested this one. So thanks, guys, for requesting this episode. We're going to watch it. We have both seen it, but not in a long time. And we have a guest. We'll introduce him in a second. But we're going to take a break. If you haven't watched this episode, you can do so on Simpsons World or wherever you get your episodes. This one's on DVD, so click through Amazon. Click our links on Amazon.com, wepodcast.com, and watch it. And we're going to watch it right now.
Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Dun, 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 dun,
because
dun, dun.
we're just sitting here. And
I see.
Into the studio.
We're literally not in a car.
We literally
so we
do
not
roads.
need roads.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I thought maybe you were some kind of Indian mystic who could tell the future.
Who says I'm not? If you want to see your future, throw a treasured personal item into the fire.
Okay.
Not a firecracker.
So that was Bart to the Future.
It sure was, Jack.
And
it sure was.
Before we go into the future, before we go into the past, into the future,
yes.
Let's introduce our guest, and I'll let you introduce our guest, Dan, because you've seen him naked. You've had baths. you've taken baths with him. I'm assuming.
Off to a good start.
Well, yeah, I mean, yesterday we did, but whatever. It is my brother, Rob Mulhall, is here as our guest today.
Yay!
How you doing, bro?
Fellow son of Meffrey Mulhall.
That's right.
Hello,
That's
Wii
exactly
Universe.
Yes, you are a faithful Wii listener. You have been almost since the start.
From the start.
From the start.
Good.
I remember a few episodes in, you told a story on air about Thanksgiving dinner where Rob was
right.
criticizing the show in front of the entire family.
Hasn't gotten any better.
How could I forget?
Well, that was before we made some changes, and now I know Rob's a much bigger fan of the show because we added a lot of things he really loves. Like
Beavis, I'm here!
Like silly voices. Rob loves the silly
I
voices.
come for the characters. What's the Simpsons?
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the program.
But Rob's not just here because of nepotism and because he's a diehard Hemus fan, and we're just going to go on air and keep saying it until people actually believe it.
Yeah.
He's also a big Simpsons fan. He's one of our, after Dan and Dan Ozzie hosted Brooklyn Trivia, I would say Rob is our strongest member of the Simpsons trivia team.
Yeah.
Certainly better than I am. So Rob, let's get your Simpsons profile.
Sure.
Favorite seasons, favorite episodes?
Oh boy, season 4 to 7, I would say.
I think that's unimpeachable.
Yeah, I mean, I would go 1 to 9 is classic for me.
You don't see 9 as a little less than...
Yes, but it's still classic. I think 10, 11, 12 is, you could throw all of those together, and after that, I had pretty much stopped watching.
So you don't watch the show anymore? You only started for this show? For the
Yeah,
podcast,
now
or-
I watch all these crappy episodes, so thank you.
They're not all crappy. Maybe you don't remember an episode called Lisa Goes Gaga?
I didn't hate that one so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
that's
so,
true. You
so
did like
since
that
you were a
one.
faithful listener,
Yeah.
what are some episodes you think we got wrong, or you just didn't agree?
I think most of the new ones are pretty terrible.
Okay, so you think we go too easy on some?
Some of them, yeah.
You didn't like the, what was it, the Judd Apatow one. You didn't like that as much as we did, right?
No, I'm not the biggest Judd Apatow fan, though, so I don't
The
like...
police coming to take you away.
Yeah.
Judd Apatow.
The Judd Apatow police.
No, I think, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something different with the new episodes. They certainly don't compare. And I know some people still watch every week and like it, but I don't see how this show could even be on the air right now. So
Yeah, it's not even the one we just watched. I know we're going to talk about it in a moment, but even the one we just watched is kind of a fanciful, like crazy, wacky episode. And we just watched the premiere of this season, which was also kind of this like dream within a dream, fake episode, for lack of a better word. And I just thought this one wasn't good, but it was much more grounded.
Oh yeah.
Than the season 27
We'll get into
one.
that. There's some good stuff there. But before we
Big
do,
difference.
we were talking at the costume contest, Rob, and you were talking about how we were commiserating and how there's definitely something wrong with the show, and even after 53 episodes, 52 episodes, I still can't put my finger on it. And you
Yeah.
would think after hours and hours of talking about it out loud and thinking out loud, but you said there was like some kind of theory formulating.
well, I think it has something to do with the references they used to do to things that at the time I didn't even know what they were.
Yeah,
like
right.
The Shining or Citizen Kane, Godfather they reference all the time. They don't seem to do that as much. They try to rely on their jokes, which aren't that funny anymore,
Yeah.
which is sad, but I don't know. It is
Yeah,
what it
no,
is.
that's a good point. And this is an older episode that we're doing, season 11. So I think it's Purgatorio. It's definitely there's a lot of elements that feel like classic, and there's a lot of references and stuff that I don't think I got when I watched the episode 15 years ago. And we'll hit when we get them up to. I'll bring them up. But there were certain things I was like, oh, I certainly didn't get that joke 15 years ago.
One thing I wanted about the reference thing, they used to also, not even just like classic movies that they would parody, even though they would do those really well, they would also reference things that were very, I guess, above your education, or at least above my education, like making jokes about Pablo Neruda.
Yeah.
Like, I only know who Pablo Neruda is because of The Simpsons, and I'm
Right.
sure that's true of thousands and thousands of people.
I'm sure the people who know Pablo Neruda personally were like, yeah, that was a cool
You
reference.
did it, PN, you got there.
They all call him PM.
Yep. The PN, oh man. I have no got that. Yeah, I got that. That was terrible. It's late. We're doing a night podcast.
All right, so why don't we get into it? Real quick plot recap. This is our first flash forward episode. It was only the second. There was one in the classic era with Lisa. When Lisa gets married. This was the second. I believe there's been a few more before.
There's been three more.
Three
since.
more.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I haven't seen the Futurama one. Maybe that's also a future one. I don't know. But so there's been a few. First one we're covering on the show after 54 episodes. We've been saving this one for a while though.
We have. We were waiting specifically for
I
Back to the
really
Future
want to
Day.
see the Days of Holiday
Days
Past.
of Holiday Past. It's
People,
supposed to be a
a
pretty
lot
good
of people
one.
suggesting saying it's a good one, but we have to watch that. We have to watch a few more before we get to that one because apparently
Right.
there's a continuity in their flash forwards.
There's a little bit of
Unlike
continuity.
Lost.
That's true.
So, plot recap for this episode begins with the Simpsons driving to some vacation spot. They get rerouted by some bug swarm, so they go to an Indian casino where Bart basically meets an Indian mystic who tells his future, and we go 30 years into the future. Lisa is about to become president. Lisa becomes president. Bart is 40. He's living with Ralph as a musician, not making a lot of money, dodging debt collectors, not living a great life. And he decides to move in with the Simpsons and Lisa in the White House and try to mooch off her and use her presidentness, I guess, to boost his career and help him out with some basically in general with his life. Obviously, this drives Lisa crazy. She's not having a great time anyway because she's got to introduce a tax hike and the American people don't like it. And then there's also a B plot where Homer and Marge look for Lincoln's gold.
We'll definitely talk about that.
I thought that was the A plot.
that was the A plot.
It was so engaging.
And so the episode resolves. They find Lincoln's gold. It's a letter, and the gold is in each and every one of us. Some bullshit like that. And Bart gets Lisa out of her tax hike jam by using his skills of avoiding debt. And Lisa repays Bart back by legalizing weed. Bart comes out of his vision, and he and Lisa share a nice little moment of nothingness, and the episode ends. Is that there?
That sums it up.
That's how long it would take me to sum up Back to the Future Part 2 to somebody who never seen it before.
All right, let's do it.
No, I'm not
It's the end of the first movie.
Rob has 7
You gotta do something about your kids, Marty!
Rob has a 7-hour trip home. I'll save Back to the Future 2 for possible future sync points, maybe?
Let's stand by that Simpsons commentary if you want.
Back to the Future 2, fantastic movie, but there's really no reason for it to exist. Because
No.
why do you need to stop something in the future? Just stop
don't
it in
do
the
it.
present. Just don't do it.
Yeah, he could have just wore a
true.
condom. There
Yeah.
would be no Marty Jr.
Exactly.
But then we wouldn't have that cool hat, the hypercolor hat.
So it opens up with the Simpsons driving to some campsite thing.
Yeah, they were going camping at Larva Lake.
Oh, yeah, that joke was okay.
Yeah, and then the whole joke is that the bugs have taken over the campground.
I love Hank Azaria's, who was the park ranger. I love his delivery. It's like, sorry, folks, park's closed. The bugs have firmly taken control.
Yeah, well, the bugs are firmly in charge.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that phrasing. I thought it was funny.
And the delivery, but then it was an extra beat alarm. Then it goes on too much. It's like they've taken the picnic center or whatever. And
Yeah, they ate the guidebook he gets upset about. And then it even goes even further where there's just a bunch of bugs on his hand. And then they leave, and he's like, "Hey, I had a class ring," and they come back and return the class ring, but also eat the flesh off of his bone.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of that? I just thought that was...
Yeah, that was a little weird. I mean, the whole thing kind of reminded me of the Ranger from Mountain of Madness,
Yeah.
although that was a lot funnier.
yeah.
This was, I don't know, it just seemed kind of an odd way to get them to an Indian casino, but...
Yes.
Well, you
They've
said
done weirder things to
Yeah.
start the plot, but...
you said about 25 minutes ago before my plot recap.
Yeah.
that you said how this episode was already kind of cartoony and it lost its groundedness, and the guy loses his flesh. He has
Yeah.
a skeleton hand, and even that, like, it's a funny visual gag. I actually kind of like it, but his
well-
reaction's like, "Oh, come on!" Whereas if you were going to even be somewhat grounded, like, it's not even that the bugs ate his skin and his flesh. I don't even mind that. I just was like, his reaction was too nonchalant. Like, it should have been like,
I agree.
My hand.
And I thought, if you like the joke, that's fine. You're an idiot, I guess. No, I'm just kidding. If you liked it, that's fine. I can understand.
54 episodes and we just evolved to Jack, you ignorant slut.
All right, cut that. Jack, I respect your opinion greatly. No, I just thought it was not enough payoff to do something that big. Like, this was the season where they did the Jockey Elves, which I've always thought was the first moment that the show sacrificed reality for a
Was
joke.
that episode before this one?
It's the same season. I think it was before.
Because this is pretty reality sacrificing, the Ranger losing his hand to a bunch
Yeah,
of
no, it is. It definitely is.
sentient mosquitoes.
And the idea that, they brought back his ring, but they did something much worse. Like, it's a funny idea. It's a good, gag, but that he's lost his hand and he's totally fine with it is not worth the payoff.
Okay.
In my book.
In general,
the
yes, if this was the first case of that. But now, in retrospect,
Well,
15 years of
But at the
of
time,
jokes
they
like
weren't
that.
doing that many jokes
Right,
like
right,
this. And so if this is like one of the first reality-breaking jokes, it
Yeah.
wasn't a great one.
Right.
And then they just, like you said before, they just happened to find a casino. Like, this whole opening minute was just to get them, look at this casino.
To me, was kind of the analog to the Renaissance Fair in the Good Future episode. The what's
Right,
it called?
Lisa's Wedding.
Yeah. Although I guess you're right, we don't see a minute of them driving to the Renaissance Fair. So they're just in
they're there already.
And then there's some casino gags coming up. So I guess that's really more the Renaissance fair.
But I'll say this, I did think it made sense. Like, you can't really have that, if you're doing an Indian casino, you can't really have them like, we're here at this Indian casino because Marge has a gambling problem, and the kids can't be there. And I like that they draw attention to both of these things, a little bit of continuity, like, Homer, I have a horrible gambling problem.
Yeah,
I
guess I didn't
Points
mind
where
the
you can
drive.
find
If the joke could have been funnier, but I don't mind the fact that they were driving somewhere and got detoured to this casino. It makes sense. It only took up 30 seconds of screen time.
So what about when Homer actually goes into the casino?
Well, I like where he asks Marge, and Marge says, no, I have a gambling problem. Well, I don't like that because he should have known better. But I like that he asks Lisa, and Lisa starts going into this tirade, and then they just cut away, and Homer and Bart are already running into the casino.
Right.
Like, oh, all right, you sure I can't give it to you? I like that. That was a good, close-up
too.
of Lisa, cut away. It was funny.
Yeah, I like that too. But what I think you're referring to is when Homer comes into the Indian casino, and he goes, hi, how are ya? Hi, how are ya?
Oh, that.
Which I'm just going to say, I don't like that, but I always think of that. For some reason, that's just, there's a couple of lines in this episode that are just like drilled into my head.
Yeah, me too. I must have seen this episode more than I think.
Yeah. That's like, I think of that
one
a
doesn't,
lot.
though.
I don't know why.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
one
want
doesn't.
to. I want to just, like, what's that thing in Harry Potter where you can just take memories out of your head? I want to take this episode out.
The
Pensieve,
memory scoop.
The memory scoop, yeah. It's just it's a melon baller that you just you just use in your brain.
It's Dumbledorf's.
Dumbledorf. Dumbledorf on golf. Is that a thing? Is that anything?
It is now.
All right.
Check out our Dumbledorf 80-part miniseries.
Oh, this is all good. All right.
Rob has a face on that says, I need more Hemus.
Oh, really?
That's not Hemus.
I'm Bleemus. I'm Hemus's brother. Because you're Dan's brother.
Rob, you should be doing Bleemus.
Oh, I'll pass on Bleemus.
How dare you pass on Bleemus? All right. No.
You don't want to leave How Dare You Pass on Bleemus in the final cut of the podcast?
Now I want to title the episode.
How dare you?
This is why it takes us 3 hours to record
It's 2 a.m.
Now, can't you imagine, wouldn't you pay $1,300 to be trapped on a boat with us for a week?
The Wii Cruise?
The week
Oh, yeah.
cruise. It's all of
It's just this.
but on a boat with no escape, where the toilets might break down.
Yeah.
And which would be really terrible if you, like me, had the Halloween black dyed Whopper.
Yeah, which is going to turn your poop green, which a stranger told you at Burger King.
As I literally was about to take the bite. Hey, buddy, you know that
it turns your poop's green, right?
Thanks, mysterious Santa.
No problem.
It was actually me from the future. He was just holding up a newspaper and just like, it's like, what you doing? And doing an experiment.
And he gave you a sports almanac. I don't know what that was about.
No, I was doing where Doc meets.
I'm just mixing things up.
All right. So yeah, the hi, how are you? That didn't stick with me.
No,
as
and
much.
it's pretty
Not-
offensive.
but
It's
yeah,
pretty offensive.
it's defensive. It's not very funny. Yes, hi, how are you? Sounds like an Indian war chant. I guess I don't know.
It's not funny. Is that jerk-ass Homer? Or is that just
He didn't.
stupid
That's
Homer?
tough. That's a tough call.
Yeah,
I would verge towards stupid Homer.
I mean, there is a lot of jerk-ass Homer where he's not technically being belligerent, but his stupidity is so bad that it's being kind of belligerent.
Jerk ass is mean spirited, not
Yeah.
necessarily intentionally.
Yeah, I don't think he was being mean. I guess you're right. He's just being an idiot. Yeah.
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 All right. Well, we didn't like that.
So we are 57 minutes into this podcast. Let's talk about the flash forward. So Bart meets this mystic. Indian who happens to also run the casino. So if this is the analog to the Ren Fair, then the Native American is obviously the gypsy woman Lisa talks to. I like that Bart gets a future episode too. I like that they said that's okay. Season 7's Lisa's wedding was very popular.
Yeah.
Season 7?
6.
6.
I wasn't gonna correct you.
I always think it's season 7. I always picture the words Lisa's wedding in pink, which is what season
Which is
7,
the color of season
which
7.
is what season 7's color is in the
DVD?
the Simpsons book I memorized as a kid,
Fair
the
enough.
complete guide to the
Yeah.
Simpsons, which when there was 8 seasons, it was the complete guide.
Yeah.
So I always
That was
picture.
barely a third of the
Alright,
season.
so
not
look,
even.
you our Reddit users can test me on this, but I bet you I can name almost all of the seasons because this is how I think of them in my head. I'm very visually minded. So when you say season 6, I think that's light green. So yeah, season 1 I think is sky blue. Season 2, I want to say, is yellow. Season 3 is purple. No, season 4 is purple. Season
We don't
3
have
is
to go
dark
through all the
purple.
seasons.
Season
This is
5,
fascinating.
season 5 is blue. Season 6 is lime green. Season 7 is pink. Season 8 is dark blue purple. So
I have no idea if you're right, so
So
you
let us
really
know
could
in
have
the
just said
Reddit.
anything.
Let us know in the Reddit. So anyway, so I like that.
We could just get the book and check. We don't have to make other people
I don't
do
have
it.
the book anymore.
Oh, I do.
So obviously, season 6's Lisa's Wedding was a big hit. So they're like, all right,
Right.
let's do a new future episode. So it makes sense that
Yeah.
Bart would be the next one.
And according to the Wikipedia page talking about the commentary from this episode, that's pretty much exactly how it happened. They were just like, oh, we did that Lisa flash forward a while ago. What if we did it with Bart?
Yeah. Plus, it was
Yeah,
season
great
11.
idea.
They were probably running out of story ideas, so this was
Yeah.
a good one.
Surely the show won't go on for another 13, 14 years.
I really like that it's a Bart-centric episode. So what was Lisa's wedding? What was that? 10 years in the future? 15? No, it couldn't have been. She
think
was
it
in
was-
college, so
Well, she probably would have
It
been
was about 10, yeah.
it had to be
20,
more than 10.
20,
She could-
22 maybe.
Yeah, all right. And then this one is 30 years in the future, which
Yeah.
was 15 years ago. So it's
So
now
Lisa's
it's
38,
15
Bart's
years
40.
in our future. And it's just a great way to tell a different story. As you told them his mid-20s, and now you're telling them his Bart's 40 in this.
Yeah.
Although, did Bart seem 40 to you? He's older than Homer in this.
I've got problems with Bart in this episode.
Do we want to get into this now?
We can hold off.
Well, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about Bart now.
All right. Well, yeah, sure.
What was your question? Did Bart seem...
Does Bart seem 40 to you?
Bart doesn't
Because
even
remember,
seem like Bart to me.
Remember, Homer is 36 to 38. So
Right.
Bart is older than Homer.
Yeah. Bart seemed very, it was confusing because I don't see that Bart would turn into this in 30 years, especially because he's like Jimmy Buffett and like a big Jimmy Buffett fan for some reason.
Which, why would he even know about Jimmy Buffett?
Yeah, exactly. In the next 30
Wow.
years, is there going to be a resurgence of Jimmy Buffett?
I don't know. I wasn't a Johnny Cash fan when I was 10. I
I
never
bet
even
you don't
heard
dress like Johnny Cash and like try and play his music everywhere you go. That I know of.
Not in public. No.
Yeah.
I
It
mean, I
just
can
seems-
see him getting into a musician.
Yeah, that's fine. It just the way he turned out isn't what I would have expected. The fact that he's a moocher, I can kind of buy that because Bart seems like he would expect everything to go his way, and when it doesn't, he would blame everyone else, which is kind of what he does in this episode. But the specifics of it, like the Hawaiian shirt and the ponytail, like that's not Bart.
So, I mean, that idea was kind of funny that he's a loser, moocher, whatever. But if we're assuming that this exists in the same canon as the previous future episode, Lisa's Wedding, we saw Bart. He had a job as
a
a
good point.
demolition expert or whatever.
Yeah.
And he made reference to the fact that he was going to go to law school, which we know he does because he eventually becomes Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
that's true.
okay.
Now
Cool.
it's 15 years later, and he's a complete loser who also sounds like either a 10-year-old boy or a 40-year-old woman.
Yeah,
Yes.
his voice is less gruff than when he was 25
Right.
years old.
I mean, Nancy Cartwright changed her voice in Lisa's Wedding.
That's a
and
great point.
clearly did not here.
Although he only had a few lines in that episode, I wonder if it was too hard for her to do a whole episode with that talking. This is my adult Bart voice. That's a really good point. I guess
Yeah.
maybe he went to law school, dropped out, got really depressed, and then
became
once
Chief
Lisa
Justice.
became president, she
That she hooked him up.
She hooked him
hooked
up.
him up. Yeah,
There we go.
that's funny.
That's
so
how
All right, so it comes together.
It all ties
This,
together.
this is hard because I feel like it's 2 against 1 here because I got the Meffrey Mulhall brothers here. Because I actually wrote in my notes, I love Bart's personality and I love
Really?
everything they did with his character, with one exception, which I'll get into. But I love the idea that you're right. The time. It doesn't quite fit the Bart we saw in Lisa's Wedding.
Right.
But I love that he'd become a moocher. I love that he's like this kind of schemer who's always looking for a get-rich-quick scheme. He's always dodging his debt collectors.
See, I like that stuff too. It's just kind of the set dressing. Like, I don't see that Bart would become this.
He thinks he's really cool. Just like 10-year-old Bart does. 10-year-old Bart thinks
Right.
he's really cool, but he's kind of a dork. He hangs out with Millhouse not because
Right, he gets beat up by bullies.
Yeah. He thinks he's cool, but he's a dork. And this is kind of a 40-year-old version of that. It's just more pathetic because when you're 10, you're 10. And now
But it just seems too specific. It's this like very
But
like
you want
stoner
specific.
Jimmy Buffett thing.
would you rather just broad strokes? Don't we usually talk about how characters are too flat? I love that. That's what I love about Bart is that they
specificity.
made a character choice. And they ran with it. It's a very specific character choice. Yes, you could have gone 10 different ways with the 40-year-old Bart,
Yeah.
but I like that they picked one and they committed to it. Like everything that he does fit his character.
I mean, I guess I'll give them points for following through and staying committed, but I didn't like the choice that they made.
Okay, so I not like it, and we'll get later into why I liked it in terms of how it played into the story. And I actually do really like the story, besides the A plot, the Lincoln's Gold A plot. But I actually like the story because it's one of my favorite things. It comes out of character and not plot. Here's the thing I wasn't crazy about. I don't mind him being a Jimmy Buffett fan, but I don't know how I feel about it. The fact that he's a musician, seeing that at 10 years old he's still, and again 10 is still really young and he could change his mind, but he's shown no interest in music whatsoever.
Not so.
Well, he did.
He did.
He had a guitar and then he threw it away.
The auto
he
show.
gave it up. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Spinal Tap one.
right. Okay. All right. And he does become a jazz drummer in a post-classic episode we haven't covered yet.
Oh boy, that sounds terrific.
So I guess, all right. So I guess it's there. I thought it was weird that like he was a professional musician.
Again, I thought that was an odd thing to have. Like his thing in this episode is that he's a musician. He's trying to get his band off the ground. That's weird because
And like that doesn't. You would think that would if you're gonna do that as a character choice, wouldn't that come up with Lisa? Like, hey Lisa, you always
Right.
wanted to be a big professional saxophone player. Now you're president.
well, let's talk about Lisa.
Although Lisa's always wanted to be president too.
Well,
She did go to Monster Island.
It's actually a peninsula. Let's talk about Lisa being president. What did you guys think of that in the same respect as we were just talking about Bart?
It fits her character. And if it's 30 years later, she's technically constitutionally old enough.
I was okay with that. I thought it was weirder that Milhouse was her
Yeah,
secretary,
I
and
think it's
her
not very smart.
No.
chief of staff.
Well, I thought that was especially weird in that Bart didn't live with Milhouse. He lives with Ralph. But we can talk about Ralph in a second.
Right, but Milhouse is more successful, although he worked at the
guess.
nuclear power plant. Wasn't he Homer's supervisor?
Yeah.
So how did he become chief of staff?
We'll have to wait for another episode to fill in the gaps. But Lisa being president,
Is it too big for you? Is it too...
It wasn't even too big. It's too easy. Like, if Bart,
Should she have been
Bart's
Secretary of
nobody, and
Commerce?
Lisa's the president. Like, it was just... It's such an obvious thing to do.
Now, it gives you a lot of storytelling things to do that you wouldn't otherwise do, but I wonder if it would have been better if they kept it in Springfield and she was mayor. And maybe she was on the way to becoming president.
That would have worked better for me. Especially at 38, it's a little young.
Because I was going to complain that there wasn't enough future Springfielders. I like seeing them, but there was a decent amount, so I wasn't going to bring it up. But if they stayed in Springfield.
Since you just brought that up, I did want to bring up that Springfield has had no new people come in. It is only our current cast of characters, but older, throughout this entire episode. All you ever see is old Mo, old Lenny.
Well, that's of course. What do you want? Why would you want to see old random extra?
Just like in the background, it's all just old people, old characters. So
All right,
Springfield is dying.
Oh, I see what you're saying. There's no young people. I mean,
Yeah.
there's Rod and Todd, but they ain't making any
Well.
babies. Although in the future, who knows? I don't know.
Two gay brothers can make babies in the future.
Independently.
That's a very specific.
Independently. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'll bring it up now. In the Camp David scene, Bart brings together all his loser friends to work on the tax problem.
Yes.
And we see old Krusty, old
Very
Nelson,
old Krusty.
Yeah, old Nelson, old Otto, and then we see and Ralph, and then we see a bunch of extras, and they were just random middle-aged
Pretty
extras.
sure it was actually his friends.
That's
Like,
what I was going to say.
thought
So
it
that's
was
what I was going to
supposed
say.
I thought it was like old Lewis
That's
and
exactly and
old
Wendell,
other kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the other one that's not Lewis.
the one with the glasses.
Richard. Yeah.
Is it Richard, or am I just?
I don't
thinking
know.
of
So
Richard Lewis?
that was actually what I was going to ask you guys. Is if we're not going to go back. So again, Reddit users help us out here, and we commenters, and Facebook and Twitter, and the one Stitcher guy.
WeBuyGuys.com.
Yeah. Let us know if those character models fit. The fact that both of you picked up on that makes me think that there's actually a really good chance it was his schoolyard friends. And if so, that's kind of cool that that's a little bit deeper than more effort than they typically put.
We're jumping all over the place here, but there was some other bits of continuity I noticed in this episode. Namely, there was a wide shot of the house at one point, and you could see the add-on that they had put in that Hugh and Lisa stayed in when they were getting
Yeah,
married.
the joke
was
being that all the
interesting.
houses upgraded and they just had this
Right,
really
it
crappy wood.
was there.
They did have a hover car, though.
They did have a hover car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for them.
trading up.
So let's get.
We have to watch an episode where Homer becomes a hover plow truck driver. I'm sure that's a good one.
They'll get there. Before we get into the plot and go scene by scene, We talked about Bart being whatever Bart is, and Lisa being president. So you said you want to talk about Ralph.
Yeah, so when we first get into the future, we see Bart, that he's living with Ralph. And I actually thought that Ralph grew up in a lot of ways. Like, he wasn't completely a dope. He wasn't completely like the random Ralph Wiggum that we see now.
Which makes sense. He's older.
Well, but he was even a little bit better than Bart, because he's the one who comes out of the shower and he's like, I'm so tired of having to use newspaper instead of towels, where Bart seems like
he
totally
has a
fine
job.
with it.
He has a steady job.
Right,
It's like a fry cook or something.
He actually seems more accomplished than Bart, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
I kind of liked it.
Yeah, all right, I like that too. I liked his hair too. It looked just like a thicker version of his hair.
Yeah, so we're watching this episode, and I didn't laugh all that much, but at the same time, I didn't hate the episode, and I'm wondering if it's because I've seen this one a few times, that it's like The Devil You Know. I'm a little familiar with this episode. I'm used to it. I know what to expect. It's not like when we watch My Fair Laddie and everyone's jumping into song, and I hate it because I'm not expecting that.
Maybe. I think in general, this episode's funnier than the ones we usually cover for a couple of reasons. One is the season 11, and season 11 generally seems to be funnier than the newer ones because it still has some odes of some traces of the classic era.
Right, but I think that's true of
future
season 11.
jokes.
Yeah, I think that's true of season 11 in general, but there's not a whole lot I like in this episode, really.
Yeah.
Smell You Later I like.
Well, I'll argue, we'll get there, we'll get through this. I'm going to argue that I actually really like this story. I think it's a good character-based story, which is something, it's not great. It's not like a season 5 episode.
Yeah.
But it's better than what we usually cover. Maybe not as good as even what was our new least worst episode ever a couple weeks ago?
The Little Orphan Millie.
Little Orphan Millie. But I think it's a solid character-based, the Bart and Lisa dynamic, and we'll get into that. But I think it's generally not a terrible episode.
I agree that the Homer searching for Lincoln's gold is the most best thing they've ever done.
I was going to bring this up off air. I was kind of hoping we just didn't mention it at all. Like literally just ignored it and tried to just wish it away. But obviously,
we're going to talk about it. We'll get there.
All right. So the flash forward opens up with them on the couch.
Yeah, it's Bart and Ralph in their apartment. It's kind of
an anticlimactic way to open up. Like, think about again Lisa's wedding, where it opens up with an army of robots walking. It turns out to be the Tin Men.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's such a great episode.
Yeah, that is a much better episode than this one. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we don't really join them in any kind of action or any joke.
Future thing.
It's just Bart's there and they don't have towels because they're poor.
So then they get a hologram call from Nelson, who is dressed up as not just Biff Tannen.
I was thinking the same thing.
It's alternate Biff.
Yes.
From Back to the Future Part 2 again.
2015 Biff.
Right.
No, 1985 A.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a kind of not an obscure reference. It's not like Back to the Future 2 is obscure.
This little unsung gem.
But that's a reference I certainly appreciate. And it works. It works perfectly. Nelson is Biff.
I think aside from the episode title, that's the only Back to the Future reference. And I'm not even positive it's a reference. It's just it definitely looked to all of us.
It's gotta be Biff. Yeah. I always assume so.
I always assume everyone's supposed to be Biff.
So he offers them. A gig at his crab shack or whatever he owns. So Nelson's doing all right for himself.
Yeah.
And then he closes with "Smell you later," and then Bart says, "I can't believe smell you later. Replace goodbye." So what do we think of "Smell you later"?
Like many things in this episode, I don't know. It doesn't really do anything for me, good or bad. It's fine.
I don't know why this episode's greetings and goodbyes stick with me, but "Smell you later" is definitely something else that sticks with me from this episode.
That's burned into my brain. Do you think it's funny?
Yeah, I think I do think it's funny. I'm not sure. I can't totally tell.
I think it's funny because just by itself, it's okay. But I was shocked at how many times they reuse it in the episode, and every time it's in a different capacity, and it's it's funny every time.
Because Nelson says "smell you later" anyway, so him saying it at the end of the call is like, oh, that's just Nelson, and then it's I can't believe replace goodbye, and then that's kind of running through the whole episode.
What do you think of them saying, I can't believe it's replaced goodbye? Like Bart explicitly saying it, like stop breaking the fourth wall, and like why would he say that now? But you have to say it.
But you have to say it to set up the joke of everyone else saying it
exactly.
later.
So
I think it's fine.
It stuck out, but I also think it's fine. And then they immediately follow it up with they tell the telegram boy or whatever, "Smell you later," and then they say, and then they both say "smell you later" back at the same time, and it just kind of is a very funny way of just hammering it home. But if it was just the one "smell you later," I don't think it would have worked. But the fact that they followed up, and then they bring it up a few more times, and I wrote them down. because I never forget. So when Ralph leaves Bart, he goes, "Smell you later, Bart. Smell you later forever."
That's
funny.
the one that I always think of. Smell you later forever.
And then there's also the American people say, "Smell you later" to the
Right.
tax hike. And then Ken says, "And then we'll smell you later at 11."
That I liked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
a
what
good
I'm saying.
one.
So
That's a good one.
they found all these different ways. If it was just "smell you later, smell you later," smell over and over in the same way, I would have
Yeah.
got sick of it. But I think they did a good job with it.
Much like we thought Willie was a good character who they could never possibly ruin, I think Kent Brockman is always a very reliable, funny
Yeah.
character.
All right,
Does he have an episode or?
Yeah, he does. It's
Okay,
coming
we're
out.
gonna have to watch that one.
Jumping ahead. Here's something I never realized as a 15-year-old boy.
Ooh, do tell.
I always thought Ken Brockman grew a mustache because he was older, and they're trying to make him look like an older model. I never realized that he was basically just now Walter Cronkite.
Right.
That just went over my head.
Oh. Yeah, okay, I got it just now. This is a learning podcast.
It was like
kids.
it was like a Cronkite stash.
Yeah. The Kronk stash.
So they go, okay. They got their gig, and Ralph says, "Should we take the regular bus or the hover bus?" That's another one that's always stuck with me. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
I like the idea that in the future you don't just have hover buses. Like, poor people still have to take the regular bus. Like, for instance, how everybody in the world now has a smartphone. And,
and some
right?
some have-nots are still using their flip
Old
phones.
flip phone. Also with the hover bus, I like that they, unless I'm wrong here, the hover bus and all the future cars in the hover cars in the Simpsons Futureverse use the Jetson sound.
Yeah,
right?
I love the sound
Oh,
effect.
yeah.
That's not a spoof. That's a straight up.
I
Jetson
think that's
sound.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like how Futurama, their doors are. Isn't that the Star Trek door sound? Like the exact same sound effect as the
it could
sliding
be.
door.
That
open?
wouldn't surprise me.
I like that for whatever reason. Matt Groening shows that take place in the future just
Yeah.
co-opt
Take other shows
classic
that take place in the
60s future
future.
sounds. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So they get there. The Homer and Marge are trying the Oculus. They're in the kitchen. I also noticed in the background there was salt and pepper shakers in the china cabinet, and the salt and pepper shakers had like space rings around them, like futuristic salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah.
Again, nice little detail.
The
that they
Washington
added.
Monument had
Washington
that too,
Monument had
yeah,
the same
later
thing.
on.
It's just like I think it
it's
was
the future.
intentionally supposed to be stupid. Like
Yeah,
why would there be
definitely.
rings around it? So I liked that. I liked it. Nothing, Rob. Just you
Yeah.
didn't like the rings.
He didn't like much.
It was fine. It was, I don't know, if you're gonna do a future episode, like do a future episode. They didn't really take too many chances on what's gonna happen. They kind of built
That's a
off
good
what
point.
they did
That's
in
true.
Lisa's wedding, and
One thing I want to point out, a nice little visual detail that I liked, and I don't remember if it was the same in Lisa's wedding or not. Homer's hair. He doesn't have the hair that goes around, and he only has one half hair.
Yeah.
Which I like, and in 30 years, that's how much hair he'll have lost.
he's old and he's bald now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
He doesn't have the full luscious head of hair that we're used to.
I'll be a sick freak.
I was thinking the same thing. I noticed
I
it
liked
late in
it.
the episode, but I like that he had one hair. Does he only have?
Well, it wasn't
one
even one,
hair?
it was half of one hair.
So in the Lisa's
I want
wedding,
to say in Lisa's wedding, he had
a
one full hair, and now he's got
less.
half, so
'Cause
I like that.
It is interesting. It is nice that they didn't just reuse the character models. They did age everybody another additional 15 years.
Yeah, Homer and Marge were definitely more
Although,
wrinkly.
if you think about it, they're only in their late 60s.
They are-
if they're
oh,
30
yeah.
years older, and
68.
I'm hoping that in 15 years from now, which is when this episode takes place, we've gotten better with genetics and such
Yeah.
that the 66 is the new 26.
According to polls, Americans have emphatically said smell you later to President Simpson's refund adjustment. And that's the news. We'll smell you later at 11.
What did you guys think of the other member of the Simpsons family, Maggie Jr.?
Yeah, it was cute, because they had in the Lisa's wedding episode, Maggie never talked, because Maggie's a baby, never talked. And in this one, they pull out, oh, Maggie Jr., she looks just like her mother, Maggie Sr., and we never actually see the actual Maggie, we just see a baby
I
who
like
looks
that.
exactly like her.
I don't know if eventually they have to, because how many ways can you think of it? Maybe they do show future Maggie or have her talk or whatever in the new future episodes we haven't seen.
Yeah.
But if you guys can, or try to avoid it. I really want to go into those episodes as cold as possible.
Yeah, me too.
So don't let us know.
Don't tell us about the future,
But
we want to be
also,
surprised.
don't start a Reddit that saes Jack and Dan don't read this. Spoilers ahead, because we're gonna have to read
I
it.
will definitely read anything that says, Dan, do not read this.
Or donut read this.
Do not donut.
Dan's donut read this, but don't tell Dan. All right, so Bart asks for money or for whatever. Something he asks for something from Homer and Marge.
Right.
And they don't do it. So Bart says, "Homer, you used to be cool." And I like that they're setting up that that's kind of his way of getting people to like.
That's his like shtick in the future. Yeah.
And that ends up being what he uses to get China to bail the United States out and helps Lisa. So I like that they set it up ahead of time with "You used to be cool." He also uses it on somebody. Oh, and he uses it on Lisa, and she goes, "You used to be cool." She's like, "No, I didn't."
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah. So he goes. This is later, but he goes to Lisa. "You used to be cool," and she goes, "No, I didn't." That doesn't make sense. Wouldn't it be "No, I wasn't"?
Didn't used to be cool.
No, I didn't used to be cool.
She's the president. Don't argue
That's
with
true.
her.
I did not used to be cool. Is that still is that even grammatically correct?
I did not used to be cool. Not if you say it like that.
I guess
I did not used to.
Right? That doesn't sound right. It wouldn't be. I wasn't used to be cool either. But I didn't used to be cool. Doesn't sound right.
Wait a minute. How would you say it if you want to say I didn't used to be cool? That's not right. I did not used to be cool.
Is that perfect?
I never used to be cool. Maybe that's it.
Well,
Is
Rob, help us out.
I failed English. It was impossible. I like that as a Lisa character.
I love that
moment.
that her response is no, I wasn't, or no, I didn't. But that's
whatever.
But Rob, I know you have to go and you have a long commute ahead. But I didn't used to be cool. What is?
You didn't used to you?
That's really bugging me.
Hold on, Google this.
All right, so then he can't get any money from them, so he goes to Flanders for money.
Yeah, and they go to Flanders, and Flanders is blind, which I thought was interesting because it seems to be news to them.
Because you love other people's pain.
I love other people's pain. I wish his children were dead. Flanders opens the door, and he's very clearly blind. He has the glasses on. And it seems like it's a surprise to Bart and Ralph because they're like, "Mr. Flanders, you went blind?"
Yeah, that
Which
doesn't make
I thought
any
was
sense.
Interesting.
You would know that how often. Maybe Bart doesn't visit all the time. No, the timing doesn't quite work out. You're right. Bart should have known that his.
Yeah,
But
it was just a little weird.
I loved his rapport with Flanders, though. I really that old Flanders was one of the most to me like real genuine characters. Like he really had this like paternal, which is funny because that's not really in the show, it's in the movie.
It is in the movie, and you should watch our
we might talk
listen
about
to our
it at
commentary
length
track.
in
We
the
do.
commentary track.
Maybe.
But Flanders like paternal or avuncular relationship with Bart.
Avuncular?
It's not more.
Whoa, Dr. English over here. I didn't used to know you use words like avuncular.
I mean, it's more uncular than
It's an uncle who was in the AV club. Avuncular.
It's more uncular than paternal. Anyway, I really like this. It seemed like it felt lived in. It felt established. This relationship he had with Bart. Like, oh Bart, I shouldn't give you the money, but here you go. It just I don't know. And Harry Shearer's delivery, it felt very genuine to me.
Yeah.
I thought it worked. I mean, it was Flanders. He's a nice guy, and he's known Bart since he's a little kid. So
Yeah.
he wants to help him as long as he's got his small mooching sack.
Yeah,
He's okay with that.
When you say it like that, you say like, oh, it's obvious. Yeah, he's known him. He's a next door neighbor. He was a nice guy. But it's fun. What stands out is they don't usually do that. Like if you take another character like Mo or Wiggum, where it should be some kind of realistic.
There was some continuity there.
Yeah, exactly. You would think, oh, that's Mo. It's Homer's best friend. He would act like this way in this scenario. But it's almost never the case. Nobody acts like the way.
Well,
they're
this was
supposed to.
season 11, so
That's a good point.
we were
True.
close. We skipped over the allusion to Bart killing himself again.
Oh yeah.
We did.
What do we think about that? Because we saw in a previous episode, Bart actually
Tried
tried to kill himself.
Yes.
It's dark. It didn't bother me as much as other suicide attempts on the show has in the post-credits. I think it's because it so quickly goes into a newscast.
Right. It's a split second of Bart puts a gun to his head.
Yeah,
And then
you think
immediately it's
he's
brain
going to kill
vision.
himself, but
Yeah.
he's actually turning on his TV, his brain vision. I think the fact that it quickly goes to it mitigated it for me.
It was okay, yeah.
I feel like in season 25, 26, they would spend 10, 20 seconds making you think he had actually killed himself. And it would probably make like a gunshot sound, and there'd be like blood splattering on the wall, but it's actually news juice or something. I don't know.
Is that what you think on the news when there's violent homicides? It's like, look at all that news juice everywhere.
I don't know how the future works. I'm not a scientist.
You're not a scientist. I can't argue with you.
So he decides to go to Lisa for help. She just got elected president.
Okay, so we see Lisa doing a press conference. She is the president now, which is interesting because Bart said she was the president-elect, and now it seems like she is firmly established as president.
It's like, why bother with the president? Like, I get
Yeah.
that she's new to the office, but I don't know. It seems weird.
Yeah. But she calls herself America's first straight female president, which I thought was interesting. Do you think that's an allusion to something?
My first gut was Hillary Clinton.
Same.
But that's because every pop culture reference to a female president ever was like there's a episode of Sliders where they make a joke that Hillary Clinton is president, and that was 1993.
How early did Hillary Clinton make her aspirations to be president?
That's what I'm saying. So that was 22. So 23. Assume if she wins the election, which is not a given at this point. If she wins the election, that means that Sliders had predicted it 23 years prior.
Well, the joke when Bill Clinton was elected was that she was essentially
already
running the country.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
I don't know. My gut told me Hillary Clinton, but I don't know. That's weird. She's not very lesbian. I know being married to Bill Clinton's not all.
It's not all sunshine and happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got that big box of porn at Camp David.
That's true.
I don't know. What did you just think it was something else, or
No, I thought it was Hillary Clinton,
maybe a generic lesbian joke.
It's not very biting satire from The Simpsons.
So Lisa comes in. Preceded by or followed by the presidential marching band.
Right,
playing Hail to the Chief. Yeah. And then she talks about budget cuts, and she doesn't know what she's gonna have to cut. I like that in unison, the entire band like turns around and whistles.
Yeah, they whistle on as they leave quickly.
That was a fun joke.
Yeah, I like that. That got an LOL from me. Damn. Okay, so then we are brought to the B plot? Kind of like an F plot.
It's clearly the A plot.
There's really only two scenes that have to do with it, so let's talk about both of them now. It's Homer and the quest for Lincoln's gold. I'm not totally sure what to say.
Co-starring Marge.
Co-starring Marge. It's basically, and they make a meta joke about it at the end of the episode, it's basically just something to pad out the story.
Yeah.
To give Homer something to do.
It's my least favorite kind of B plot. I was editing the one from 2 weeks ago. Where I used the doorbell where Marge gets a doorbell as the token B plot, and I realized that's not the best one. The one that I was thinking of, and I couldn't put it into words, is Sunday Bloody Sunday, the Super Bowl episode.
Oh, Vincent Price, Egg Magic.
And the B plot is they're trying to put together something, and like I just.
But that one was at least really, really weird because you had Vincent Price and his nephew Jody.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
That worked because
I can't think of
strange.
I can't think of a good example, but
I agree with that. It was so out there and bizarre that it kind of worked.
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
Dan Castellaneta kind of saves it with his Vincent Price
that's
voice.
also a bad example.
But Lincoln's Gold was just... Is that
Yeah.
based on something? Is there like a legend of
I
Curly's
assume
Gold?
National treasure.
I always assume there was something. Maybe there's not. It does seem kind of silly now that you say it out loud. Like, who would say... I mean, there's also people, there's people who think that we faked the moon landing and faked mass schools.
That's because we
We
did,
did.
Jack.
Of course we did.
Real fake!
Hey, Rob. I heard you wanted to see me and my friends. By the way, did you get that pamphlet I sent you about the moon landing? Now I'm Ralph Cramden. One of these days...
Morphing right in front of our eyes!
One of these days, straight to the moon, but it's
But not
impossible.
really.
Straight to the studio where Stanley Kubrick will direct it. So yeah, Lincoln's gold. It's a thing. Everybody knows Lincoln buried the gold from the South. When we beat the South, we took their gold.
I don't know if it's a specific Lincoln's Gold
Always
thing,
wear your helmets.
but I think there is like a almost Illuminati, like the same kind of thing that National Treasure was based on. This idea that the founding fathers, or you know, there was gold and they buried it in the White House.
The one gag I did like was when he just starts from a random point and starts counting 4 paces or whatever it was.
Agreed.
From
He
an
just
arbitrary...
picks a point and just hacksaws into the floor.
And I think it was funnier because Marge actually pointed it out.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. But I thought, obviously this was nothing of nothing. This was just a bit of nothing. There's no point to this, and each individual scene had no point either.
Maybe because it's a future episode, I was hesitant to do this, but this must be the token bad B plot that is literally just filler with nothing
Yeah.
to offer.
What I mean, other than getting Homer and Marge to do something, because they didn't really do much.
Right.
What was the point of this?
There
They're
is
in
no
the
point.
they're in the future. They could have done literally anything. And
Yeah.
they did this treasure
They could
hunt
have searched
thing.
for gold in the present day White House, which I'm sure they could easily write them into in a season 27 episode.
Right.
You're right. Why couldn't we have seen something futuristic and cool?
Completely
Maybe they do a
agree.
trip to the moon, a cruise to the moon.
A wee cruise to the moon?
A wee cruise to the moon. Coming soon with our partnership with Richard Branson and Elon Musk.
That's right. Virgin Galactic to the moon. Ralph Cramden's gonna drive it.
I told you, Alice. It's me, Rupert Cramden.
This Lincoln's Gold thing, yeah, I agree, they could have done literally anything, but it also, the way it ends is just nothing. Like, Homer digs up the entire lawn and does find something, but it turns out the gold was in our hearts all along, or whatever bullshit thing it was. Homer doesn't learn anything,
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
funny.
you realize
it's just
they
nothing.
couldn't make them millionaires because that would upset the status quo
Yeah.
where Lisa is president.
That's exactly right.
Be unrealistic.
We would never cut to again.
So this is something that I think we said way back in episode 7, the Steve Carell one, if you even remember that one.
Vaguely.
We said that
Was that where he was the boss? Of
he
the
became
paper
the
factory?
he became the head of the mob because he was their accountant, and Fat Tony was out and they entrusted him.
He's like a virgin. And he was 40.
I don't think so. Maybe it was the end of the world and he
head-
was seeking some sort of friend.
His face were in pancakes. I remember that.
You're
Pancake
thinking of
face.
You're thinking of The Office.
Oh, that's right.
That hit Steve Carell movie, Pancake Face. No, we brought up in that one, or at least I did, that was an episode plot that would have worked probably better as like a crappy comedy movie.
Not
Because-
like Midnight Run with the mob accountant.
I've actually never seen Midnight
That's a
Run,
great movie.
and I've heard such good things about it. I gotta see this fucking movie. But I thought that this idea, like the president has a deadbeat brother who ends up saving the day,
Yeah.
I thought that is a better concept for a shitty movie than a shitty Simpsons episode.
Well, you said about a lot of things. I see. It's funny.
I know, it's just-
I didn't see this that way. I saw it as Lisa is president. So what would Bart's dynamic be with her?
Yeah, but why does Lisa have to be president? I guess I'm not
Right.
sold on the Lisa
Right,
has to be
right.
president.
It would have been
thing.
better if she was mayor. But again, I really liked, and this is where we disagree fundamentally about this episode, is I really like that Bart's character. I like the character choice they made. I like that they stuck with it. I like that it's consistent. One thing, even though he had that Spinal Tap guitar, I think he would have been better if he was like a stand-up comic or a prop comic instead of
That would
a
have been
musician.
Now, okay, that makes total sense. I
because
could definitely see
school
Bart.
pranks. He's
Yeah,
the
I
class
could
clown.
totally see him becoming a failed
Right,
stand-up.
the class clown usually becomes that, doesn't become a musician. So,
Yeah.
Or host a podcast. I don't know. But no, so that's nitpicking. The idea of him being a struggling artist but also being a moocher and always trying to get out of debt. So I like that character, and I think it
Man.
fits perfectly with the big story.
I know we're not in the rankings yet, but I would have given this episode a full extra point in one category if Bart had been a stand-up comic instead of a musician, because I think that works so much better
What
for
if
his character.
Krusty was a stand-up comic and he tied his hair back and
And he, don't you hate pants?
No, so I love that it actually ties perfectly. And so you're telling a big story because Lisa's president, for better or worse. And
Yeah.
the big story is it's like a West Wing plot. Like she has to pass this tax hike and has to win over the American people. So I like that Bart's small story, but Bart is a moocher who mooches off his family, ties perfectly in with that, where he uses his skills of evading debt and smooth talking people. Like he uses that to bail out his sister. See, I thought it's not. Shakespeare, and it's not even season 5 storytelling, but compared to what we
something.
get, it's character based. It's thin, but it's character based. It's not plot motivated. It's unlike Lincoln's Gold. Well, that's not even plot motivated. That's just floating.
We're
in
done talking
nothingness.
about
Yeah.
nothing of
So,
nothing.
but no, I like that it's character motivated. I like that it makes sense. I like that the choice they made for Bart services the story that they chose for Lisa.
Yeah,
So I actually like all that.
I like that too. I do think it was slight, though.
wasn't necessarily. Yeah, it was very thin. It wasn't necessarily the most entertaining, but
Keep mentioning Bart mooching, and at one point he says, "Moochie moochie."
Yeah.
Is that a Jay and Silent Bob reference? Because it
like
feels
smoochy
really
moochies?
dated.
Yes,
maybe,
I think you're right.
Or
I
do
think
we
it
just
is.
like to say things that ended with
Hoochie.
Uchi in the 90s? Because there's
Hoochie.
also Hoochie Mama from Seinfeld.
Hootie and the Blowfish?
I don't know. Maybe Uchi was just a big 90s suffix.
Uchi, 90s suffix.
But this took place in like 2030.
That's a good
true,
point.
that's true. But it came out in 2000 also.
Well, 2000 is
2000 is the 90s.
Is 90s. It's just like 1990 is the 80s.
I do think, now that you're saying it, I do think it was a loose Jay and Silent Bob reference.
Really?
Yeah. Well, Bart's a stoner here, clearly, with the whole legalizing thing at the end.
Yeah, well,
So I think
I'm
it makes
saving that. I
sense.
got something to say. I want to say about that at the end.
You're going to go off on another rant.
Yeah.
Marijuana reform, we need it. I don't know why you talk like this now. My name's Jack, and I'm running for office.
I do not approve of that message. So Lisa has to give a big speech to the nation, and Bart interrupts to plug his demo.
Yes.
Here's another one that I don't know if I would say it's funny or if I like it, but it's burned into my brain. Ralph saying "tape-o," he said "tape-o," which that wasn't even exactly what he said, but I thought
I did not like that.
it's burned in there though.
Yeah. I thought
I wish we were doing a video podcast.
You're making some good
because
faces.
Rob has been reacting to everything we've been saying the entire time, but it's all in just disappointed, frustrated.
Well, that's what it was, because that could have been funny, but it was.
I found it very, very grating.
Yeah, it was bad.
Even that, I
bad.
wouldn't be surprised if someone just turned off the podcast.
They haven't. Yes.
Lisa has a chief of staff meeting where they're talking about what they're gonna do. You know, they have to pay their creditors, and now Bart has said that it's a tax, not a refund adjustment, which is what what Milhouse had suggested she call it, because they need money from the American people. I liked there was a joke where we're gonna all. I forget what the woman said. We're going to do something, and then by the time they find us, we'll have taken our cyanide pills. I just thought that was funny. Like, that's the plan. Like, yeah, we're just going to kill ourselves.
Yeah. I was also thinking of that woman and everybody else in the room besides Kearney and Milhouse were original characters.
We're all original characters, which makes sense. Like, she's not going to bring a bunch of people from Springfield with her.
I'd rather see that. Again, that's why it would be better if she was mayor. It's a fun flash forward what if episode. I'd like to see more familiar stuff.
Yeah, they didn't take enough chances.
Yeah. Again, and they could have.
There should have been more Lincoln's Gold.
That's what I said. You're right. Those two scenes could have easily been something. That's where they could have really gone buck wild. And
what if they had found, instead of Lincoln's Gold, they find a robotic Lincoln that has like a cyborg Lincoln, like they saved his brain and put it in this metal robot, and it goes on a rampage and kills everyone.
Something. So Bart interrupts again. What did you think of Kearney saying you get 3 secret kills and they run out at the end of your turn?
I thought that was funny. I like
that. That's a line that always kind of stuck with me too.
Yeah.
It was a funny idea. So Lisa, to get rid of him, she sends him to Camp David just to get him out of her hair. And he, like I said, he brings his Krusty, Otto, the boys that we're assuming are Lewis and Wendell and everybody.
Right, they're going there to party.
They go to party, but Bart really actually wants to help Lisa, and I like that. I like that he feels important, that she tasked him with this job. And then he goes, there's a weird Shining parody, of all things in a flash forward, to do a Shining parody.
And it's very much animated to be the bar in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, I noticed it right away.
It's very overt.
Yeah.
Something I probably didn't even get in 2000 either.
Yeah, I mean, I rewatched The Shining not that long ago, so I was like, it was primed in my head, and I was like, oh, it's a Shining thing. And I forgot that the ghost was coming in, too, and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Right, and the idea that it would be Billy Carter?
Yeah, Billy Carter.
Billy Beard.
Creator of Billy Beard.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I like that whole scene because I like the reference to The Shining. And it was kind of another one of those, like, I don't know anything about Billy Carter. I know he was Jimmy Carter's brother, and he had Billy Beard.
That's all I know.
I know all of this from The Simpsons.
Yep.
But it goes to that, like, it taught you about things that maybe you should know, or kind of pop culture.
Right. That's not like you're right. Whereas now it would be a Kardashian or something.
Right.
It's a slightly, it's not, I don't want to say highbrow because it's Billy Carter and Billy Beard, but
he was a notable figure in the 70s. And
there's a certain classiness, I guess, to the reference. Again, it's Billy Beard, but you're right. To reference something instantly, it's Billy Beard compared to like Kim Kardashian's video game app or something. I don't know. You're right. There's more of a, I don't know, timeliness. None of these are the right words for it. They're the exact opposite.
It's not timely, but
exactly,
that kind of makes it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not that it's not time. It's not dated to when this episode came out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like things that like in Shrek the movie, when they make references to like things that were current in 2000 that you've forgotten about
Smash
at this point.
Mouth.
Smash Mouth being number one amongst them. Somebody once said that referencing Smash Mouth is not a good thing to do.
Also, how weird is it that there's a ghost that's in canon in the flash forward. You're doing a sci-fi future episode, and you have a ghost, and technically in the future, Bart will see a ghost.
No, I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
That's weird.
He could have been drunk or high.
Yeah, he could have been. He could have been making it up. So Bart decides. So Bart goes and Lisa meets with all the heads of the other states that owe money. Again, predicting the future. Apparently, Germany was owed a lot. Was bailing America out, much like it's bailing Europe out now. So
More flash forwarding.
Angela Merkel is not quite the German stereotype as the
The guy Hans.
so Bart comes in and uses his Bart mooching charm and charisma to.
I actually want to say something before that scene.
Yeah.
Still back at between that and the Camp David
Yeah.
scene. There was something that I actually liked, which you might not think I liked, where there is product placement inside of Bart's vision. Billy Carter, I think, starts saying something about the casino, whatever it was called, and they pull out of the vision, and they're like, "You put an ad in my vision?" And he's like,
Yeah,
"Oh."
I don't know if this is
It
intentional.
worked well with dances with focus groups, which I did
I
not
hated
like.
that
That was
line. I
terrible,
hated that
but
line.
the idea of putting the ad in, I liked.
I don't know if it's intentional, but I think Hank Azaria did both the voice of Billy Carter and the Native American. But it sounded like, especially once he started doing the ad, that Billy Carter started to take on the voice of the Indian doing the flash forward. So I kind of liked how it made sense. Like the advertisement was coming from the casino.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So he's with the heads of state.
Right, and Bart comes in and says, "Lisa, you need help dodging creditors, and you don't come to me. Like this is the one thing I'm
Yeah,
good
yeah.
at." Which you talked about before. It
Yeah,
makes
it's
sense to tie
it's
everything
a
together.
character-based plot.
It's a little crazy that it actually does work, because Bart comes in and he's like, "Oh, we tried to call you on Saturday, but you guys weren't there. We left a message with an intern. Maybe
It's a
you lost
stretch,
it."
but
It's a bit of a stretch, Jack.
and it's again another line that's probably is really too racist to.
Yeah,
and
it's
would
also
probably
stuck
wouldn't
in
say-
my head
But it's
too,
burned
yeah.
in where the Chinese president or premier goes, "Well, China's still cool."
You pay later.
When Bart says again his line that he's been using the whole episode.
Yeah.
I thought you were cool, man.
Yeah.
China's still cool. That always stuck with me.
Same, but I don't like it. It's exactly like Homer's "Hi, how are you?" Like I think of that line fairly often, but I
That
don't
doesn't
like
make it okay.
It doesn't make it okay.
Did
and I
this
don't like it.
this story resolution do anything for you, Rob?
Well, I was going to say, I like the German line, the "We are not a warlike people." I thought
That's
that
a
was
great line, and that's like a classic Simpsons
Right.
line.
Yes, which is why I liked it. The Chinese one, not so
Well, in
much.
fact, they had done a classic line like that when the Germans take over the power
Right.
plant.
Yeah,
They're like,
sure.
"We are not all sunshine and happiness."
Right.
It's a gem.
Surely someone who's German can't be evil.
So they've done it a few times, I
They've made a
suppose.
lot.
Good. They get a lot of mileage out
They
of that. Because it's a little more subtle. You
Yeah.
kind of have to know, all right, basic history, but
Yeah,
you know.
the broad strokes of history.
So Bart saves the day.
Bart saves the day,
Well,
and
so you asked me if I liked the resolution.
Right.
No, I didn't, because Bart doesn't save the day. He buys them a little bit of time.
This is
They
true,
go
yeah,
home. Like he didn't get them to wipe out the dead. He just got them to go away. But they invited them in the first place.
oh wow, you're right.
What's the point?
Yeah, there is no point. There's nothing.
This whole episode had no point.
I feel like
Wait a minute. They didn't have a point, because what is the guy showing Bart that like you have to work with Lisa, or like you'll save her? She's nothing without you.
Why is he showing him
It's
this?
like
Yeah.
they in Lisa's wedding, it's like, okay, I'm going to show you this hugely important moment in your life. For Bart, it's like, I'm going to show you next Tuesday where
Yeah,
you do a
yeah.
thing.
And it's not even. I'm going to show you this hugely important thing because technically, even though it was her first time falling in love, it wasn't her getting married. If anything, she was teaching Lisa, hey, your dad's a oaf, but he's worth something.
Right.
He cares
Right,
about you.
he's worth sticking
And then the
with.
episode ends with them getting along. And the episode does end with Bart and Lisa walking away,
Right.
but there's
Yeah,
none
but
of
there's no payoff at all.
that. No. Yeah, he
At
doesn't learn
best,
to treat her better.
Yeah, they have a slightly better relationship. He respects her a little bit more,
If,
maybe,
and that's,
if that.
And that's
But he just-
implied. It's not even said.
Yeah,
Right.
because he just says to her like, "Oh yeah, I had a vision. I had a band, and you had some government job."
Yeah,
Right.
which I like because that's a Bart's near.
Yeah, it
narcissist.
is.
But, in
But there
terms
was
of
no
the story,
payoff.
There's
yeah.
no payoff at all.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like it should have been. You're right. It should have been what Homer was to Lisa, Lisa should have been to Bart in this episode.
Yeah.
All right, we should keep you around every episode as like instead of our fact checker, you'll be our bullshit detective. So every time we're like, actually this plot wasn't that bad. Excuse me. Excuse me. Actually, none of this makes sense.
I said you've been going too easy on these episodes.
Yeah, maybe we have.
We're just going to have to Skype you in from now on and be like, so we were going to give this a 3.5.
What should we really give it? 0. There's no payoff.
It's all crap.
Okay, one last thing that I
yeah.
had is, Lisa says, Bart, how can I thank you? Which doesn't make a lot of sense now because he bought her, what, a day, maybe?
I guess she can make another tax hike now, and he won't.
But they're going to collect taxes in one day and be like, yeah, we did it. Here we go.
What's funny is this is what we're doing in real life with the government shutdown. Every year we can't pay our bills and we just put it off 2 weeks.
Kick the can down the road.
Yeah, I don't know how the economy works. You don't know. Nobody knows. They're just like, yeah, we owe money.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. They taught us that in economy in high school, and that was it. That was all they taught.
Yeah.
I don't know how they stretched that for a semester, but they did.
I don't know. But my point, so Bart helps Lisa, and she's like, what can I do to pay you back? And he says, legalize it.
Yeah. And she
What do
goes,
we think
what?
of
And she goes,
this?
what? And he goes,
Right, like, wink, wink.
So I
Marijuana stick motion.
So I said I like the specific character choice they made for Bart, and they could have made 5 or 6. It's Bart in 30 years. You could make lots of different choices. I like the choice they make, and him being a stoner and wanting the weed to be legalized totally fits his character. Totally makes sense. I get it. It works.
I don't know.
But
I don't know if
just
I'd say it totally fits his character. It's not a stretch to
He
think
did
that's where he's going to wind
hallucinate
up.
Billy Carter.
Well, that was a ghost,
But
Jack.
I mean, Homer's a big alcoholic, and what do kids do to relax?
Marge is a
these
compulsive
days?
gambler,
This generation
so Bart
smokes
has
a lot of
compulsion.
weed, but I don't. It just felt icky because yes, he's a 40-year-old, but he's really a 10-year-old, and it just felt icky for Bart Simpson to do weed. I don't like the idea of it. So even though it fits his future character, I didn't need that joke there. I don't want them saying out loud, even though they wouldn't say the words. I don't want them saying Bart smokes weed.
But it felt to me like Bart, it's not even just Bart doing it and it's a character thing. It's like Bart is this lazy mooch, and what do lazy mooches want? They want their drugs to be legal.
Which I'm hoping within 15 years it is legal everywhere by
Yeah,
now.
I mean, it should be legal, but that's besides the point.
Better ending. Thanks, Bart. You're good at this politics thing. You should go to law school. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
And then all the canon fits.
maybe she offers him some shitty job in the White House kitchen or something. And he's like, you know what? Actually, I want to go to school and earn. I want to be on your cabinet, and I want to earn it. Something like that. I don't know.
That's something
You're
that's
right.
an actual payoff.
Yeah, you're right. That as much as I like that the plot came out of character, in terms of the arc, it's lacking.
And then even when they come back to the present, which was not the sequel to Back to
Yeah.
the Future, when they come back to the present, like, you could have Bart be like, Lisa, do you need any favors done? Because they know I got your back, right? Or
Something, yeah.
something
He's
like
trying
that.
to get in good with her.
And
exactly.
They go out of their way to have Lisa be the one that picks up Bart. Bart and Lisa the one that walk out and end the episode together.
Yeah.
So you
Like, they're trying to say, this was an episode about brother and sister
Yeah.
relationships, but it's not
but
really.
you're right. They say nothing.
Yeah.
All of their dialogue is flat and 2-dimensional. It's you had some government job. There's no
There's no
subtext.
bond. Nothing
Yeah.
at all.
That's a bummer. You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring you down.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh yeah. We really should keep you around for every episode and just whenever we get too excited
us
about an
out.
episode.
Payback for watching 50 crappy Simpsons episodes.
Yeah.
We'll just look at you. You'll just be sitting on the couch like with your arms folded, nodding.
No.
And you should have a cattle prod or something for every time Dan breaks out into a Hemus. just
Guys,
or no, like
I've
a
told you this before. I'm not Hemus. Hemus is a different person. Are you not seeing him? He's right here on the couch. Hemus, say something.
burn them all.
4 score 4, 4 score 5, 4 score 6, 4 score and 7 paces.
Wait! How do you know this is where Lincoln buried the gold? You just started counting from an arbitrary
I
place.
started what from a what?
Okay, so that is it for Bart to the Future, and now it is time to rank the episode on our 4-factor test, the Hippo scale. We're looking at the humor, the integrity, the production, and the originality of the episode on a 0 to 5 scale, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. Okay, so let's put 2 minutes on the clock.
Beep bop boop bop.
Thank you, clock.
Oh,
Okay,
wait, I should do the Jetson sound, but I don't know how to mimic that.
sounded like Lee Majors
Yeah.
is coming.
Well, one more.
You've got to stop fantasizing about Lee Majors.
That's side. This could be the way to see it. That's one of the best moments in the series, and one that I reference very often.
I just love the fact that you hear the sound effect from outside of her head.
But that's another example of something that was at least 15, 20 years kind of
Yes,
past the
past
reference.
its prime.
It's because the writers were doing from their childhood.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, if we were somehow writing The Simpsons or writing another animated show right now, there would probably be a ton of, like, Empty Nest and Mr. Bogus and...
Mr. Bogus.
What are 90s
Well,
shows? Like,
It's because like there's an affection that they clearly
Exactly,
have for those
exactly.
things that comes through in the writing.
and it does. It comes through, and
Yeah.
I think that's why... Whereas, like, if they do a Kardashian reference, maybe that's...
There's no
something
affection.
There.
There's
yeah.
no affection. Yeah,
Now
it's
it's kind of
snark.
cynical. Yeah, maybe that's one of the missing ingredients to why the new episodes. Their
I
references
think
just
so.
don't have the same love and nostalgic. that
Right,
the
it's
old
like
ones
we're gonna take something down instead of like, hey, remember the $6 million man?
Maybe that's. I guess that's not the whole puzzle, because then if they did a joke that was current but wasn't nostalgic, like Al Gore celebrating his book sale, that's
Right,
not coming
well.
out of a place of nostalgia. That's a current topical reference, but it's still way funnier than something they would do now.
That's at least a little bit
Maybe it's just
satirical.
talented writers. Maybe just you just can't. George Meyer was just like one of a generation. I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway, like, prime me up. I'm gonna try the Jetsons again.
Okay, let's put 2 minutes on the clock.
That's my Jetsons.
All right. Strange that the clock makes different noises every week, but that's okay. So 2 minutes on the clock. Humor of this episode, 0 to 5. Rob, we're looking at you. What do you got?
I think my favorite thing was all the sight gags and verbal humor. It wasn't really that funny otherwise. 2.
2. Okay.
I was thinking 3.5 because
Wow,
it's a season
no.
11 and it's a funny episode and it's easy to do future jokes, but
It is, but they didn't do them.
I know, and it just Rob being in the room makes me like it less. But I'm still gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna go a little heavy.
That seems a little high for me. I'm thinking below average. I'm thinking 1.5 or 2. It just I said before.
I could go to 2.5.
Like I said before, I don't dislike this episode, but I didn't think it was funny.
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of there. There were no real.
I guess I'm
joke
thinking.
moments.
I guess the jokes are more burned in my brain than are actually funny. Maybe I'll go 2.5.
All right. The integrity of the episode. What do we got?
It was pretty good. Flanders was good.
Yeah.
Bart was maybe a version of himself. I guess maybe split it right down the middle and say a 3.
Okay.
I could go 4. I like the character choices with Bart. I like that Lisa as president. Yes, it would have been better for a
4.
story point of view. It would have been better if Lisa was a mayor, but I could see her as president. Homer and Marge's plot I hated, but it had nothing to do with their character. So I could go 4. I think, so you guys don't kill me, I think I'll go 3.5.
Yeah, 4 seems really high. I'm thinking just completely average. Like you said, they did something with Bart. It's not really what I think Bart would become. Yeah, I maybe do 3. I'll do a 3, actually. I'll give it some benefit because I like a lot of the concepts in the episode. The production values of the episode, what do we got? How much do we like the rings on the salt and pepper shaker?
It was fine. It looked like a Jetsons homage.
Yeah.
It had the Jetson sound effects, but it didn't really add to anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
didn't serve the story particularly, you're right.
I'll say this, we're doing an episode in the future, but a lot of it is just in the White House, and it just looks how
Right,
it looks
it's a
now.
waste.
Like,
Yeah,
they
it's a
don't
waste.
really do much with the future.
There's little
There's
touches.
some stuff.
In
There's
broad-
holograms
yeah,
and
broad strokes.
drums.
You're 100% right. They blew it. They especially maybe it's also because it didn't seem as novel as the first time. But I did like the specifics. I did like Nelson as Biff and the hover bus and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I'll say 3. It's right down the middle.
I
Yeah.
could go 3. I think I will go 3.5.
I'm going to say 3 as well. And then finally, the originality of the episode.
So this was the second future episode,
So
right?
that's points off right there.
Well, no.
Well, I like that it's, they did the Lisa future episode, let's do a Bart future episode.
Right, I agree with that, but I think they botched it, and it could have been anything because it's the future, and they made it Lincoln's Gold and mooching on
it's
the
like
couch.
like they tied them, like they handcuffed
Yeah,
themselves
for no real reason. So I got I don't know, 1.5 maybe.
Okay. I'm just going to go middle of the road because, like I said, this episode is fine. It's not one that I'm excited to ever watch again. I'm just going to go 2.5, right down the middle.
All right, I agree that, it's less original because it's a future episode. I agree that they really botched it. I love that the story was coming out of a character, if not thin, but they really blew the ending. They blew the arc. There is no arc. I think they really didn't do much with the story. The Lincoln Gold story was terrible. I know I've been giving high grades in all the other categories because I think they earned them. I think that's why we divided them up into categories. I think they really blew all the story in all sorts of ways here.
Yeah.
I was going to give it a 2, and now I think Rob's convinced me to go 1 or 1.5. I'm not even sure. I might go 1, but definitely 1.5 at highest.
Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and this episode, Bart to the Future, has ranked as a slightly better episode than Midnight Towboy, and a slightly worse episode than Bart Stops to Smell the Roosevelts, which puts it at number 41 on our list.
Yeah, I would be as weak as this episode was, or mediocre. If it's we've seen so many worse than this. I would it's a good spot for it.
I agree. I think this is a good spot. You know, those are forgettable episodes. Roosevelt's had some stuff we liked, but
I actually thought this was going to do better. I remember the episode. I was expecting the episode to be a lot funnier than the episodes we've covered on the show, and especially with Rob in the room. I realize now.
I bring everything down. I'm sorry.
That's very right.
He forces us to look at the truth.
Well, I think this episode for a lot of people was like a Battlestar Galactica level. Like, this episode went too far, but I think we've just seen so much worse since this, so it's not that bad.
Wasn't this named worst episode ever by somebody? Did we talk about that?
It was, actually. We didn't talk about that. In 2003, Entertainment Weekly said this was the worst episode of The Simpsons.
Which there's been 12 years of most classic seasons.
There's been a lot since then. So that is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. We would like to thank my brother for being here.
Pleasure.
Joining us and bringing the mood down.
Sorry.
We will have to have you back on again if we start to get too nice again.
Do like a season 4 or 5 episode.
If you have an episode that you would like to suggest, you can do that on our website. We have a form you can fill out. It's weepodcast.com. That's weepodcast.com. And while you are there, you can get to our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our subreddit, our Stitcher page. We got a whole bunch of things. You can email us. And that is also where you go for our Amazon click-through. We really appreciate it. You guys are really, really good about the Amazon click-through. You basically just click the links, click the banners, and shop like you normally would on Amazon. We get a small cut. He helps keep the podcast
it costs more than you would think, and we're not made out of. We put all our money into the Solid Gold Studio.
Yeah, it's tough.
And so that's why we're trying to come up with other ways to raise money as well, which is where Sync Points came from. So even if you don't really want to watch the movie, we'd appreciate the $2 anyway. Consider
I think
it
it's a
donation
good listen.
to our
I think it's a fun listen. I think if you're a fan of the podcast, you're gonna like it. It's only $2. That's less than a cup of coffee.
You're not gonna be surprised at what you get. It's me and Dan talking for over an hour,
and maybe a special guest.
Maybe a special guest.
It's not Leonardo DiCaprio.
And it's not Hemus. It's not Grufik. Please give us your $2.
So you can do that. That'll also be on WePodcast.com. And, of course, if you're in the Brooklyn area, you can come to Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. I co-host that with friend of the show, Dan Ozzie. That is the first Thursday of every month, so it's in about 2 weeks. The first week of November at Berry Park in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And there are other fine cities across North America that have it, so just Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. I'm tempted to make a character. I won't do that. Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. You can find more cities across the North America that have those.
Across the North America.
just go with it. You can edit it out later.
Across North America.
And next week we're going to do a Halloween episode.
Oh, it's that time. I feel like it's only been 6 months since
it has. It's not Mayoween. We're actually in Halloween this time. So we're going to be doing another Treehouse of Horror episode, Treehouse of Horror 22.
Ooh, I know what season 21. That's from.
Yes, that's right. Season 21.
Wait, would it be from season 23? If it's season 20, if it's
yes,
unless they did 3 Halloween episodes in the first season.
Season 23.
All right, we've only got 13 episodes. Let's do a Christmas off the bat and then 3 Halloweens.
I wouldn't put it past them. All right, so season 23 is Treehouse of Horror 22. Gonna do it next week, so that'll be a good one. Watch it on Simpsons World. And that's it for this episode, Worst Episode Ever. All we have left is our Cut All This. Listeners, if you'd like to submit a Cut All This, you can do that on our website. Close out the show any way you want. Today, we're going to have our guest close out the show with a Cut All This.
Guys, it's been a year. It's not going to happen. Empty Nest is not coming back. Just cut all this.
They like a man, you want a mate. Babe, he said